The director of the Secret Service got absolutely reamed by Congress today. And I mean, as I'm recording this, it's not even done yet. We saw Director Kimberly Cheatle appear before the House Oversight Committee to testify about the security failures around the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. And while these days you rarely see Republicans and Democrats coming together to agree on anything, the bipartisan disdain for this woman has been wild. Right? Especially because instead of providing clarity or really any substantial new information, Cheatle has deeply pissed off members of both sides of the aisle, with her often refusing to answer many of their questions, often citing continuing investigations and the need for more information, saying that she expects to have better answers within 60 days when a report will be finalized. But with that, you had many lawmakers hitting back, arguing that she needs to provide answers now. But this including the likes of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who noted that the proximity to the election makes the timeliness here even more important.
This is about the safety of some of the most highly targeted and valued targets internationally and domestically in the United States of America. So the idea that a report will be finalized in 60 days, let alone prior to any actionable decisions that would be made, is simply not acceptable. The violence that could break out in this political moment, regardless of party, in the event of someone getting hurt, constitutes a national security threat to the entire country.
And again, while this is still happening, I want to hit on some of the highlights. Right, first off, we saw Cheatle again taking responsibility, saying in her opening statement,
"The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th is the most significant operational failure of the Secret Service in decades, and I am keeping him and his family in my thoughts. I take full responsibility for any security lapse of our agency."
But then, when she had to start answering questions, everything just devolved, right? You had lawmakers pressing Cheatle on the breakdown in protection, asking questions about why the roof the shooter fired from wasn't secured, and specifically there, why the building he used wasn't included in the Secret Service's security perimeter zone, even though it was just 200 yards away from the president.
The individual used an AR-15 in order to act out his assassination attempt. An AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question is, why is the Secret Service protective perimeter shorter than one of the most popular semi-automatic weapons in the United States?
There are a number of weapons out there with a number of ranges. Again, an advance was completed. The determination of the perimeter, I'm not going to speak to specifics, but there are a number of factors that are taken into account when we determine our perimeter. Some of it has to do with terrain, some of it has to do with buildings, some of it has to do with assets and resources that are available.
And so what I'm hearing is that a perimeter was not established outdoors in an outdoor venue that would prevent an AR-15, which is one of the most common weapons used in mass shootings, from being able to be within the range of Secret Service protection.
But Cheatle, we saw her give very few answers despite repeated pressing. At one point she said that the rooftop in question was under overwatch, meaning that it was being monitored by law enforcement. But then she also evaded questions about why no Secret Service agents were placed on the roof.
We are still looking into the advanced process and the decisions that were made.
Okay.
Beyond that, the director has failed to clarify which agency was responsible for watching the building. But last week she told reporters that state and local law enforcement officials were responsible for the area outside the perimeter, but all those agencies have disputed her account, which has also raised some serious questions about the communication issues between various enforcement agencies. Questions that, again, Cheatle failed to answer during the hearing. Also, on the note of communication issues, Cheatle was pressed extensively on why Trump was allowed on stage, despite the fact that officials had flagged the shooter as suspicious multiple times prior to the shooting. But they're saying there that the figure had been seen by law enforcement with a rangefinder before the shooting, but saying they didn't consider him an immediate threat because a rangefinder isn't considered a weapon or prohibited item at events like rallies. But then also, rather than providing answers on how this breakdown occurred, she repeatedly said she didn't know the timeline and was waiting for more information. There was also a big focus on whether the Secret Service denied requests from Trump's security detail for more manpower and federal resources. Because last week, the agency spokesperson strongly denied the allegation, saying it was absolutely false that a member of the former president's team requested additional security resources and that those were rebuffed. With that also being echoed by DHS Secretary Mayorkas, who said that the accusation that he had issued the denials was, quote, a baseless and irresponsible statement, and it is one that is unequivocally false. But amid reports over the weekend that the Secret Service had repeatedly turned down requests for additional security from Trump's detail for most of the time since he left office, the agency spokesperson totally changed his story, acknowledging that the Secret Service had, in fact, turned down some requests, though he said it was not specifically for the Pennsylvania rally where the shooting took place. Also adding that when the Secret Service can't provide additional resources, the agency, quote, made modifications to ensure ensure the security of the protectee, including by supplementing state and local law enforcement or changing security plans to reduce Trump's exposure. When asked by lawmakers, Cheatle said that no resources or requests were denied for the Pennsylvania rally.
For the event on July 13th, the details that were the assets that were requested for that day were given. For the event in Butler, there were no requests that were denied, but there were sufficient resources
What did you just
that
say?
were given to.
Did you just say there were
former
sufficient
presidents.
resources? President Trump
Event
got
that
shot.
day.
Someone got killed. There were not sufficient resources, clearly.
Also, beyond that, other notable moments from the hearing were the numerous testy exchanges from lawmakers who weren't afraid to show their anger at Cheatle, with some escalating to pretty heated confrontations like this interaction with Representative Nancy Mace that's been circulating a lot on social media.
You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Also, in a similar vein, we saw numerous lawmakers across the political spectrum calling for Cheatle to resign or to be fired, and sometimes very forcefully.
In my opinion, you do need to be fired immediately.
If you have an assassination attempt on a president, a former president, or a candidate, you need to resign.
You know what else is dangerous? I believe your horrifying ineptitude and your lack of skilled leadership is a disgrace. Your obfuscating today is shameful, and you should be fired immediately and go back to Garden Doritos. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
All of this also included the bizarre moment from Republican Representative Tim Burchett, who appeared to argue that the assassination attempt happened because a woman was running the Secret Service.
Ma'am, you are a DEI horror story. I've told my daughter multiple times, my wife and my daughter, we talk to her all the time about how she's going to succeed in life. She'll succeed in life by achieving. Ma'am, you have not achieved today. You've let the American public down. If it was up to me, you'd be gone.
But despite all of that, Cheatle repeatedly said that she doesn't intend to resign, and even saying at one point,
I think that I am the best person to lead the Secret Service at this time.
right? So that's kind of the main substance and the highlights as of recording, though I'll link to the full thing down below. But in general, I feel like it's safe to say that this has been an absolute disaster nightmare for Cheatle. And given what we've seen in those clips and also the public reaction to much of it, you have people saying it's gonna be hard for her to justify staying in her current role. But for now, we're gonna have to, one, yes, wait to see what happens in the aftermath of this hearing, but also two, what we learned from the results of the investigations that Cheatle claims have prevented her from actually answering most of the questions. But in the meantime, I'd love to ask you, what do you think of all this?